Perfect. I still
Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood. My name is Sarah Lindsay and I am the minister of this congregation. We are so glad to be back to offering our multi-platform option for services. Welcome to those of you joining us online this morning, and also welcome to those of you who have joined us here in Anderson. Unitarian Universalism is a religion of care and community, of promises and covenant. We don't ask folks to believe any one particular thing about the nature of God or humanity. We have no particular dogma or creed, but we do ask each other to think about who we want to be and how we want to be in the world. We ask each other to embrace hope, the power of love, and the possibility of change. We are committed to increasing justice, love, and compassion. We acknowledge what is hard and needs changing, and we rejoice in what is beautiful and wonderful. If you are new to USR and you want to know more about who we are and what we do, the best thing is to get connected to our weekly e-blast. A Google form link is going to be dropped into the chat for those of you online. You can just click that and fill it out. If you're here in Anderson, we invite you to just stop anyone and ask them how to get connected. And as always, you can visit the website and you can email our administrator, Anne. We invite you folks on Zoom to stay after the service for the breakout rooms for coffee hour. It's a great way to get to know other folks in a smaller setting. For those of us here in Anderson, we will not be doing coffee hour yet. because of COVID, so keep your masks on. You can spend a little time distanced and chatting, but we won't be having a full coffee hour. It is very good to be with you all this morning. Spotlight Jeannie? We spotlight Jeannie. Oh, okay, there we go. We may be having a slight technical challenge. Give us 1 second. Jeannie, can you unmute? No, Olas, can you unmute Jeannie, please?
Yeah, sorry, it's only the host can unmute. So please join in the words for the chalice, lighting the chalice. They are on your screen. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action as we gather together in the circle of community.
Thank you. And now I'll ask you to take a deep breath. Maybe take one more. And listen. As we come into this time together, let your body and your mind still. Let your heart and your spirit be present to this moment, not hurrying to the next thing, not yearning for more, not worrying or shaming or letting guilt in, but just being here together with soft and gentle breathing, breathing into this time made precious by our gathering. Take a breath and listen. It really is wonderful to be back to being able to offer in-person services after our many-week hiatus doing online only as we rode out the latest COVID surge. Here in Bergen County and in the cities and towns where many of us live, the COVID wave has receded, and we once again find ourselves trying to determine what we are comfortable with, what we're willing to risk to do certain activities. We are also fast approaching the 2-year anniversary of when we first moved entirely to online services back in 2020. 2 years. It's hard to fathom that, really, at least for me. These past 2 years have brought so much uncertainty, pain, chaos, fear, challenge, and trauma. There's also been, for sure, moments of joy and love and beauty. But we've all had to learn so many new skills, and not just technological new skills. We've had to learn new skills for managing the onslaught that at times has felt overwhelming, the onslaught of lemons, if you will. And we're gonna show a little cartoon. Just this week, I saw this image again. It's of a person at a table, a juice press in front of them, surrounded by lemons, and to one side are bottles filled with lemonade. On the other side, above the person, there's a chute that just keeps sending down endless lemons. And I love this one because it takes that old saying, when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. It takes that to task, right? It reminds us that sometimes life sends so many damn lemons that you can't possibly keep up. And that perhaps keeping up shouldn't actually be the goal. So this morning, we're not talking about silver linings or making lemonade out of lemons. We're not even talking about making the best of things. This morning, we're talking about techniques, not aphorisms. We're talking about concrete ways to face the world as it is, not pretending that it can magically get better or that somehow what is happening is actually great, even though it hurts. This morning, we're acknowledging that life, these journeys we are on, while wonderful and beautiful and filled with joy, are also filled with challenge and pain that we can't control. We're recognizing that what we can control is our response, how we live into the truth of our now. So this morning, we offer some options for our minds, bodies, and spirits, some options for our wholeness, because it is with our whole being that we respond to the world. We're not just brain, we're not just heart, not just flesh and muscles. We're all of these things, an entire, unique, beautiful creature, and it is in our fullness meeting the world that we find the path forward on our journeys. It is also true that each of us possesses individual minds, bodies, and spirits that need and can tolerate different things. So throughout this morning, we do not want you to undertake any of the techniques or exercises if they are going to harm your wholeness. So folks with disabilities or trauma histories, you might find deep breathing or embodied prayer in certain ways not good for you, impossible for you. You know your being. Do only what feels safe and right for your being. And if anything rises for you throughout the service that you want to process or check in about, you can always reach out to me, okay? As we come into this time together to tend to our minds, bodies, and spirits, to explore ways to be present in this world, we do it knowing that each Sunday we endeavor to practice skills, even though we don't always frame it that way. Every Sunday, we sit in the stillness and we listen to the sound that calls us. We engage in the ritual of the chalice lighting. We listen to music together. We sing together. And so we begin today by singing a favorite Unitarian Universalist hymn, Spirit of Life. We'll have the lyrics projected and Ron will be playing it. Wherever you are in space, you can join in this hymn. If you're here in Anderson, please just hum. If you're home, full-throated singing is endorsed. Okay. Are we still having a mute issue? Okay, hang on. Try this.
Thank you.
There we go.
So our first reading today is an excerpt from an op-ed piece that Amanda Gorman, the poet and author of The Hill We Climb and Call Us What We Carry, posted in the New York Times a short time ago. The name of her op-ed piece was Why I Almost Didn't Read My Poem at the Inauguration. She says it's told like this. Amanda Gorman performed at the inauguration and the rest is history. And the truth is, I almost declined to be the inaugural poet. And why? I was terrified. I was scared of failing my people, scared of failing my poetry. But I was also terrified on a physical level. COVID was still raging, and my age group couldn't get vaccinated yet. Just a few weeks before, domestic terrorists assaulted the US Capitol, the very steps where I would recite. I didn't know then that I'd become famous, but I did know at the inauguration I was going to become highly visible, which is a very dangerous thing to be in America, especially if you're Black and outspoken and have no Secret Service. I had insomnia and nightmares, barely ate or drank for days. I finally wrote to some close friends and family telling them that I was most likely going to pull out of the ceremony. The night before I was to give the inaugural committee my final decision felt like the longest night of my life. And then it struck me, maybe being brave enough doesn't mean lessening my fear, but listening to it. I closed my eyes in bed and let myself utter all the leviathans that scared me, both monstrous and minuscule. What stood out most of all was the worry that I'd spent the rest of my life wondering what this poem could have achieved. There was only one way to find out. By the time the sun rose, I knew one thing for sure. I was going to be the 2021 inaugural poet. I can't say I was completely confident in my choice, but I was completely committed to it. I'm a firm believer that often terror is trying to tell us of a force far greater than despair. In this way, I look at fear not as cowardice, but as a call forward, a summons to fight for what we hold dear. And now more than ever, we have every right to be affected, afflicted, affronted. If you're alive, you're afraid. If you're not afraid, then you're not paying attention. The only thing we have to fear is having no fear itself, having no feeling on behalf of whom and what we've lost, whom and what we love. On the morning of Inauguration Day, I recited the mantra I say before any performance. I am the daughter of Black writers. We are descended from freedom fighters who broke their chains, and they changed the world. They call me. Though I spent the next hour shivering in my seat from nerves and the unforgiving January cold, as I stepped up to the podium to recite, I felt warm, as if the words waiting in my mouth were aflame. It seemed that the world stood still. I looked out and spoke to it. I haven't looked back. On that January 20th, what I found waiting beyond my fear was all those who searched beyond their own fears to find space for hope in their lives, who welcomed the impact of a poem into protests, hospitals, classrooms, conversations, living rooms, offices, art, and all manner of moments. I may have worked on the words, but it was other people who put those words to work. What we've seen isn't just the power of a poem, it's the power of the people. Yet while the inauguration seemed like a ray of light, this past year for many has felt like a return to the same old gloom. Our nation is still haunted by disease, inequity, and environmental crises. But though our fears may be the same, we are not. If nothing else, this must be known. Even as we've grieved, we've grown. Even fatigued, we've found that this hill we climb is one we must mount together. If anything, the very fact that we're weary means we are by definition changed. We are brave enough to listen to and learn from our fear. This time will be different because this time will be different. We already are. And yes, I am still terrified every day. Yet fear can be loving, trying its best in the dark. So do not fear your fear. Own it, free it. This isn't a liberation that I or anyone can give you. It's a power you must look for, learn, love, lead, and locate for yourself. Why? The truth is, hope isn't a promise we give. It's a promise we live. So, as I read Amanda Gorman's journey with terror and fear, I realized that for me, it was a study in how one might move through, self-regulate feelings and thoughts and move from reactivity to resilience. It reminded me of a mindfulness practice called RAIN. If you think of it as all capitals, RAIN, RAIN, created by the mindfulness teacher and yoga practitioner Tara Brach. RAIN is an acronym that stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and note and nurture. RAIN is an essential tool whenever there is an event or an ongoing situation that creates an emotional reaction, anxiety, or produces a stress response. Tara Brach's RAIN process is used widely by Dr. Judd Brewer in helping people regulate anxiety. His experience is in mindfulness training and a career in scientific research. He is passionate about understanding how our brains work and how to use that knowledge to help people make deep, permanent change in their lives with the goal of reducing suffering in the world at large. Here's his take on RAIN. The first letter in RAIN is the R for recognize. Dr. Brewer says, recognize that the stress is here or is coming, gathering momentum like a wave, and relax into it. And I wonder, can you imagine how different our lives could be if we were able to recognize the moment of a stress response and choose to navigate through it differently? He goes on to say the second letter of RAIN is the A for allow. Allow and accept this gathering wave. Don't try to avoid it and grit your teeth and brace for impact. Don't distract yourself and try to do something with it. This is your experience. Here it comes. The third letter of RAIN is I for investigation. To catch the wave of anxiety, you have to study it carefully, investigating it as it builds. Be curious. What's going on in my body right now? A tightness in the chest, a burning belly, or a restlessness that urges me to run away from this moment. Don't go looking for it, but see what arises and let it come to you. Get really curious. Where does the feeling originate in your body? And the fourth letter of RAIN is N for note and nurture. Don't get caught up with analyzing, but simply noting the feelings, thoughts, and sensations. And he actually suggests a practice of one word noting. It might be something like clenching, rising, burning, heat, restlessness, as the feelings come on in peaks. And then you may note other one-word expressions of what's going on. Vibration, tightening, lingering, tingling, lessening, relaxing, relief, expanding as the wave subsides. If thoughts arise, simply note thinking. And don't get caught up in analyzing them or fixing it. Just note your actual experience. Follow that wave until it subsides. Ride the feeling until it is completely gone and ride it all the way to the shoreline. And congratulations, You have made it to the other side. Well, the scientist Dr. Brewer calls us to note our experience. Tara Brach, the mindfulness teacher, speaks of the N in rain as nurture. And she says this, which is so beautiful. Self-compassion begins to naturally arise in the moments that you recognize you are suffering. When you've completed the active steps of rain, it's important to notice the quality of your own presence and rest in that wakeful, tender space of awareness. If you are fortunate to experience an expansion after riding the wave, there is room to expand your compassion to others. So as I read Amanda Gorman's op-ed piece, I was remembering that bright, cold day in January when Joe Biden was sworn in as president of the United States, and we were stunned by the presence and the words of this young poet. Amanda does her own rain dance with recognizing and allowing her experience of fear and terror when she says, maybe being brave enough doesn't mean lessening my fear, but listening to it. Like many artists and mystics from the wisdom tradition, she brings us along as she shares her struggle with fear and terror and its emerging teachers when she says, I'm a firm believer that often terror is trying to tell us of a force far greater than despair. In this way, I look at fear not as cowardice, but as a call forward, a summons to fight for what we hold dear. If you're not afraid, then you're not paying attention. The only thing we have to fear is having no fear itself, having no feeling on behalf of whom and what we've lost, whom and what we love. And finally, Amanda Gorman sounds the clarion call of the compassionate warrior saying, what I found waiting beyond my fear was all those who searched beyond their own fears to find space for hope in their lives. Fear can be love trying its best in the dark. So do not fear your fear. This isn't a liberation that I or anyone can give you. It's a power we all must look for, learn, love, lead, and locate for ourselves. Why? The truth is, hope isn't a promise we give, it's a promise we live.
Hi, I'm Chris Dunnigan from the Board of Trustees, and I'm the Treasurer. One of the promises we make to each other in our shared covenant at USR is to support this congregation with our presence, gifts, and service, and to care for each other and the long-term well-being of our community. This is the time in our service when we put that promise into action, by reminding each other that we share a vision of justice and freedom for this world, and that it will take all of our different talents, gifts, and support to make that vision a reality. This morning, I want to let you know that, in line with today's service, our religious education program under Jean's direction will be making some space and time to communicate about and offer programming relevant to the mental health and wellness of our youth, and that resources and programming will also be offered to the congregation at large. Please watch your emails and look for opportunities to participate. Also, please note that next week we are doing another joint service with CUC. We will be in person here, also available online through our normal Zoom room, though please watch your emails in case that changes. The other important thing is to remember that when we do these joint services, we begin at 10:15, not 10 a.m., 10:15. We will make sure that that is big and bold on the Saturday email next weekend. We would love for you to join us for that service. We also uphold our covenant by our annual and weekly giving. This month, the entire offering plate will go to support the operating budget of this congregation so that we can continue to pursue our mission to change lives and change the world. We are also collecting on the porch. This month, we are collecting for the Center for Food Action, a network of food banks here in New Jersey. CFA is in need of canned food and other shelf staple items, also soap bars, bottled soap, diapers, and dental items, all new and sealed. CFA provides assistance to homeless and low-income folks, ensuring that our neighbors right here get what they need right now, even as they and others work to try and effect systemic changes that improve lives. We continue to be in a time of great need for many, so please make time if you can to bring some items by the porch, and let your neighbors know too. Let's get an overwhelming amount of donations for this month. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
One of the other ways that we tend to our wholeness each Sunday is by taking time to witness to one another's lives by sharing our joys and sorrows. For those of you here in Anderson, if you have a joy or sorrow to share, if you could just quietly raise your hand, we do have sheets for you to fill out if you'd like to be passed one with a pencil. For those of you who are with us on Zoom, this is the time to write into the chat anything that you would like to have uplifted in this community, witnessed to by this gathered beloved group. As we give folks time to do that, I also want to recognize some of the joys and sorrows in the world at large. We remember that this week again, another young Black man was fatally shot by law enforcement. Amir Locke was killed in Minneapolis yesterday and is just one in a long line of young Black men whose lives have been stolen by folks who then face no accountability in our system that perpetuates and enables racism and injustice. Our hearts are with his family, with the city of Minneapolis, and with all those who keep fighting to make the truth that Black lives matter a truth that the entirety of our nation lives by. We also hold together the worry and tension that we and the world feel over rising antagonism between the US and Russia, with Ukraine caught in the middle. We hope that our leaders and those of other nations find a way to come to peaceful ends. Jan shares the joy that her son Dan is visiting for his birthday this weekend. Happy birthday, Dan. If you have them here, you can pass them forward. We'll give folks online another minute. Aurora celebrates finally being able to celebrate Christmas dinner last night with the 3 daughters and their families. Christmas in February, it's all good. Martin celebrates taking a first salsa class last week that actually worked for him. That's wonderful. Okay. Thank you for sharing these. Oh, we've got one more coming in. We'll give it a second. Okay, we'll give it a minute. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob. Kristen is celebrating that Henry is looking forward to his first sleepaway camp this summer. That is exciting news. And shares the sorrow that a friend's husband passed away at 51 from early onset Alzheimer's. We hold that friend and family dear this morning. Anita is celebrating Ira's 77th birthday in Florida. Happy birthday, Ira. Enjoy the sunshine. We have one more coming in. I think it's a repeat. Yeah, thank you though. More? Oh, Anita says it's raining in Florida. This is the real-time chat of Zoom. Apparently, it is not sunny. Georgetta is sharing that the University of New Mexico had an installation by the artist Nikesha Breeze, and it was a tree with every name of those Black individuals killed by law enforcement. And she is sharing the power of that, of being able to experience that work of art. Thank you for sharing these truths, holding the words spoken and all of the deep truths held in the quiet of our hearts. We come into our weekly time for meditation and prayer. This is another way that we practice for the stress and fullness of our lives. It's another way that we learn to bring our wholeness, mind, body, and spirit, to the moment and be present. So I invite you to find as comfortable a position for your body as you can. So your body in your space, feel a sense of solidity. Perhaps that means your feet on the floor, or just the way your body is sitting in your chair or resting, however, in your space. Just make sure that your physical being is grounded in some way, supported as well as it can be, making sure to adjust and accommodate your unique body. Take a moment to notice if there are places of tension in your physical body. Notice if there are places that are more relaxed and calm. There are no wrong sensations in this moment, though if a position brings pain, adjust. Just let yourself come into an awareness of your body in space, its shape, its size, the solid mass of your gorgeous being. Your body belongs here, in this moment, in all its glory. Just notice what you're feeling in your bones and muscles. Don't worry, just notice. As you find your center and your physical stillness, aware of your body's presence in space, start to focus on your breath. If it helps to close your eyes and that feels comfortable, then do so. And then just focus on the air as it moves in and out of your body. You do not need to do anything special. No need to change anything about the way you're breathing. Just notice. Notice the air as it moves in and out. If it works for you, try inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth at your pace, your natural rhythm. Don't worry that it's too fast or too slow. Just breathe your breath. Notice how it feels moving in and out of your body. Keep your focus on your breath. As you do, you may find that your mind begins to wander. It's okay, a mind will do that. There's no place here for frustration or anger, just gentleness and compassion for what is. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back with kind words and softness. Bring your mind back to the air as it moves through your body. Your body is solid in space. Your mind is gently attending to your breath. Let your spirit be calm and quiet as you bring your wholeness to focus in the silence. Each time that we practice breathing, focusing, being present as we are able in our bodies, we are preparing ourselves to face the world, to breathe in the face of challenge and stress, to bring our whole selves to bear on what life brings us. So breathe again, knowing that this being still, this being quiet, being present, this is a tool you can use anytime, anywhere. It's a tool of your body, your mind, your spirit. May we remember, even when our nervous systems are overwhelmed, that we can slow the pace. May we know the quiet and the stillness that lie within. So may it be.
So, what does mindfulness look like, feel like? The truth is, it's such an overarching concept that it's sometimes hard to grasp a hold of. Mindfulness as a spiritual practice simply is to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. Any activity that brings us to the present is a mindfulness practice. Now, we just went through the breathing meditation with Reverend Sarah. There was the rain technique we introduced. We've walked a labyrinth in Anderson, some of us. We have said the loving kindness prayer for self, others, and the world. But mindfulness also exists in creating a meal, singing a favorite song, making a cup of tea. Anything that brings us into the present moment is mindfulness. And mindfulness brings us into the intersection of body, mind, and spirit, and has the capacity to create integrative pathways between these. A stroll through the rain technique allows us the capacity for this integration of body, mind, spirit as we become aware of our thoughts, feelings, and anxiety. The mind becomes calm. The body's sensations are elevated as teacher, and the heart often becomes aroused. In this newly felt presence of self that mindfulness living brings us, we often find our capacity to see the other as beloved, and a deeper compassionate heart is born. Loss of any kind, large or small, becomes a gateway to the present and to create meaning from suffering. Mindfulness sounds really great, and it is, but it's also a subtle, delicate thing, which, while it's available to us at any and all time, for many of us, it is rarely activated. It takes an odd kind of courage to suspend doing for being and to sit empty to receive the gift of the moment, the gift we don't get to control, the emotion, the tear, the movement of energy through our bodies, or as the mystics referred to, grace. This is a favorite passage of mine from authors Stephen and Andrea Levine, who worked closely with people who in the dying stages. There is a grace approaching. We shun as much as death. It is the completion of our birth. It does not come in time, but in timelessness, when the mind sinks into the heart and we remember who we are. We've explored mindfulness as beingness, surrendering to doing. In full disclosure, it is really important in certain situations to do before you can surrender to be. For the last couple of days, I have been without power in the Hudson Valley during a very cold 0-degree temperatures. I have emptied my well tank. I have turned off the hot water line on my water heater. And I even had a friend blowtorching my stone walls in an effort to keep the pipes from freezing. I have done all I can do. I am now working on surrendering to the possibility that my kitchen and bathroom pipes, which are embedded in a concrete floor, may burst. Let me tell you, it is a process, this surrendering. But this morning, I have driven an hour to a friend and colleague's home to connect to the internet, and I am sitting in the comfort of her living room. So today, while I would love to be with you in person, we have White Plains religious education happening upstairs in this house and the USR service happening in this living room here. And I am so happy to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another opportunity to surrender. So if mindfulness begins and ends in the body, let's take a moment to move prayer through the body with words of the early 14th century Christian mystic, Julian of Norwich. So we invite you to follow along with the suggested motions if it works for your body. Please do tend to your needs. Don't push yourself to do anything that might hurt your body or generate emotional pain. If you find that the motions are not working for you, you can, of course, stop at any moment. And we want you to take care for your whole being, sometimes taking time to be concertedly in our bodies can stir feelings, emotions, memories, and not always happy ones. Be gentle with yourself and make the decision that is healthy and right for you.
If this one works. So this video that we're going to watch is going to move us through a set of physical motions. So both at home and here in Anderson, if you're willing to give it a shot, we invite you to do so. We're going to begin with await. This is await, deep meaning, the spirit, inspiration, however it comes to you. Allow a sense of wonder, joy, wholeness to come or not come. Open to what is. The next motion is accept. Accept what has come as a gift beyond your control and bring it into your heart. And then finally, attend to the world, offering your wholeness and what you have to give in love. So we'll watch and continue the motions in the quiet. Thank you for trying that with us. I'll invite you to take a moment to just check in on your body, to let your breathing happen naturally and normally, just noticing if there's anywhere after those movements that feels tender or challenged or better. One of the most painful and destructive myths that we are taught in our Western culture is that our bodies are things to be transcended, controlled, molded into some vision of what is right or beautiful, that our bodies are temporary homes for the pure spirit and soul that is the essence of who we actually are, that these mortal frames of ours are sources of shame or pain to ultimately be shed in favor of some floating heavenly something. It's strange, since these bodies in many religions are understood to be made in the image of the holy, and yet we treat them as if they are not beautiful, magnificent, sacred entities that we are meant to use for joy. These bodies, these things, these flesh and blood, bones and ligaments, muscles and tendons, these moving, wondrous, magical things we call bodies are ours. They are the home we know. They help us become who we are. And as far as we know, we don't exist beyond them. While we live, they can bring us pleasure, joy, connection, purpose, and yes, pain too. For some, the body can be a source of physical pain or can produce a sense of betrayal. That is very real. And still, our bodies are ours, the only ones we'll know, and we cannot excise ourselves from them. We can't separate our mind and spirit from our body and still be whole. We have to live in them. And to divide our bodies from our minds and our spirits is to do a kind of violence to our wholeness. Embodied prayer asks us not to valorize the body necessarily, but to recognize that it is part of our fullness. It asks us to know that in slow, deliberate motions, we can find the same kind of mindfulness we find in our meditation, a being present to the moment that encourages our whole being to slow, to regulate, to approach stress with calm. Embodied prayer asks us to understand that in assuming certain postures with our hands or arms or whole bodies, we can cultivate certain feelings, encourage our beings to an openness we might normally fear. Embodied meditation asks us to take the mindfulness we turn toward our breath to the next level and understand that our whole being can join in our focus. join in our hope, join in our movement for change. Some of us may do these kinds of embodied activities regularly, yoga, tai chi, even just exercising and stretching routines. But it's also in the approach, not just in the activity. It's in the mindset we bring. So even doing the dishes can cultivate a sense of purpose, of community, of openness to the world as it is, to process and care, if we come to it with the intention of meditation, of prayer, of cultivation. The motions are motions, but the emotion that we give to them, that is what combines the mind and the spirit with the body, and it enables something else to happen to us. It invites a new way of being in the world, a new understanding. Embodied focus and meditation, wherever we create it, however we engage in it, is another technique we can use to face the reality we are given. It's another method for tending to our beings without running and hiding. There are many more, beyond rain, beyond mindfulness and breathing, beyond embodied meditation. Many more that you can explore on your own, that we will share in weeks to come, that all of us have yet to encounter. And all of them are reminders that although we can't change what is, we can make space for it, for truth, and for the holy wholeness of us. That embodied prayer we did, as we are closing, I want to share with you that is it was mentioned a prayer of Julian of Norwich, who was a medieval mystic. She's frequently and famously quoted as having said, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. You may have heard this phrase before. One might be tempted to interpret these lines as possessed of naive optimism, to dismiss them as the lines of an ignorant religious woman who lived outside the world and didn't understand the truth of how hard life can be. Julian lived through the Black Plague, through a time of religious oppression where heretics were burned at the stake outside the city gates. She lived through a revolt, an economic revolt that brought great violence to her city. She did indeed live shut away from the world as an anchoress, but she knew the world. And her words were not empty promises of joy and happiness so much as they were fortifying words in the face of what was real. Just like that bit of lemon and lemonade wisdom, Julian's wisdom can also be weaponized. All things can. When we see someone suffering or when we ourselves are suffering, we can offer that lemonade phrase or silver linings or even all shall be well as a way to say, it isn't as bad as you think. Stop worrying, get over it. But the RAIN technique, the practice of mindfulness and embodied prayer and movement all teach us that pushing things away, squashing them down, denying our feelings or our truths doesn't actually help us move through them. Facing challenges by hiding or pretending they aren't real doesn't work. And so we can understand Julian's phrase differently. We can understand it to mean, as my colleague, the Reverend Meg Barnhouse, captures in her song, All Will Be Well, we can understand it to mean that even in the face of all the pain and chaos and challenge the world has to offer, we can still find stillness and wholeness and fullness. In that song, the Reverend Barnhouse imagined someone critiquing Julian on exactly this point, saying, how could you possibly say that when there's pain and hunger and disease and shame in the world? And in the song, Julian responds saying, no one doesn't know about loneliness. No one doesn't know about cruelty. I know it. It brought me to my knees. But then she says, baby girl, do you not know about tenderness? Do you not know about friends? Do you not know about the Spirit? Do you not know that it's love that never ends? And so all will be well, all manner of things will be well. And I love this song, and we'll play it someday again for you, because it doesn't let stand an empty theology, but rather it offers a deeper understanding of just how it is possible that all might be well. I love that way that it ends with the reminder that we, each of us, in our wholeness with our minds, our bodies, and our spirits, we can offer tenderness to ourselves. We can offer to each other friendship. We can bring to our own lives and to this world deep love, love that changes everything. All will be well, not through magic or through prayer, but through our becoming ourselves, deepening our connections, knowing the truth of the world, and in the face of all that, saying still, there is quiet and stillness and breath. Still there is joy and beauty. Still there are movements. There's relationship, connection, joy, and always love. May we continue all the days of our lives to learn new techniques for living wholly into our holy fullness, never forgetting the gifts we bring to ourselves, to each other, and to the world. So may it be. Please join in the words for Extinguishing the Chalice. Jeannie will lead them. They're also on the screen. I think I'll lead them. I'll lead them. Extinguish the flame.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. You lead them.
We do eventually extinguish the flame, but may the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action burn bright in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you all so much for being with us this morning. If you are on Zoom, please hang out. We'll adjust the settings. You can say hello to folks here. You can hang tight for the breakout rooms. I think Olas will get you set with that. And here in Anderson, we can greet one another.